Hello, everyone. This is Brenton with the Video Content Recorders podcast. I got a guest with me here. We're going to be talking about how to start a retro gaming channel on YouTube. We've got under 10 hours here, and looks like everything's working. That's great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So how you going? You going good?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited for a new year. The last one, as
Yes.
we all know, was a little bit touchy
It
for a while.
was a little bit broken there.
Yeah, a little bit broken. Hopefully the beta has been fixed and 2021 will be a really solid release.
That's hopefully that's where it goes. Yeah. Very good. So let's going to talk about your YouTube channel. What sort of let's start with talk about you. How do you lead up to the point or where you want to start a YouTube channel?
So I've been a pretty avid YouTube watcher since I was in about 10th grade, which was around like 2010. So I've always kind of had an idea that I wanted to start a YouTube channel. For a little while, it was like going to be a Let's Play channel. It was going to be some kind of content creation. My friends love doing skits for our Spanish class. So we were like, we're going to start a YouTube channel. We're going to be so popular with our very fun skits. And then we never even uploaded one. But as I kind of went through college and university and majored in journalism and things like that, the video editing side of things was just part of the curriculum. And around the time I was about a year away from graduating, I had started a podcast with my girlfriend called Hardcore Casual, where we talked about video games each week. And she ended up getting into she ended up getting into a school program. She's in radiology. It's a very long, intensive program, so she couldn't keep up with it, which is totally fine. But we had to end the podcast. So after I graduated, I mostly focused on print and digital writing and things like that. So even though I'd learned video, it was kind of out of my wheelhouse. So when I graduated in 2019, I realized I still had to pay Adobe for the rest of the year for all of the Creative Cloud stuff.
As you do.
And after not being able to like find a job initially right out of college, I was just like, I'm going to start this YouTube thing. I don't know totally what it's going to be about, but I've always wanted to do this. I really need to get better about video editing, especially my like voice, because it's terrible. One of the things that my teachers always told me was, you sound like you have no energy on the microphone. So one of the things I really wanted to focus on was just how to do video editing, how to do voiceovers in a better way, make fun, interesting content, really learn how to use Premiere. So in June of 2019, I launched my first video, and looking back on it now, it's terrible, but but it was the first one, and it's still my like third most popular video with, I don't know, I think it's got like 20,000 views or something like that, which is wild. I never expected my first video to have 20,000 views on it. But just ever since then, I've tried to consistently upload. I think there was only 1 month in the last year and a half that I haven't uploaded anything for one reason or another. But YouTube has really become something I love to do, and I met some really awesome people through it, and that's kind of how I got here today.
Very good. Yeah, I was looking at your I'm looking at your channel now. Hang on, I'll bring it on the screen so we can all see it.
Ah, there it is.
There we go. There it is. Yeah, so the first video was the Jet Set Radio Future video for the original Xbox.
Yes,
and
it was.
I'd never played that because I had an original Xbox. I just didn't play that many games. I was stuck on Need for Speed Underground for years and didn't play anything else. Your Thrillville video, that gets some bad comments, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. I kind of regret making it, even though I watched it. So after I publish a video, I'll sometimes do a premiere, sometimes I won't. But that's not one of those I've watched back very often. But about a year, almost exactly a year to the date that I uploaded it, my girlfriend and I watched it for the first time, and I just thought I was so funny. But I also cringed very hard. Um, yeah, oh man, Thrillville, one of those games that like I played as a kid, loved it as a kid, went back to it, and I was just floored at how mediocre I thought it was.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Nostalgia's a thing.
It sure is.
The video that got me to find your channel was this one here, the Tony Hawk video on the Nintendo 64.
Yes.
So you uploaded that around the time the remake came out.
It was
And that,
like almost a month before to the date. That wasn't planned. It was just it had been so long. I've played a few Tony Hawk games on my channel before, but every few months or so I'll get the itch to play one. And I was like, I was always told growing up that playing on N64 made it the worst way to play it. And I was like, I've played the other versions now. I'm going to go back to the N64 one, which is like truly where I played it more than anything. And I was like, let's look at it through a critical eye. And I was very lucky. It got a lot of attention, and it's what gave me most of my subscribers. So yeah.
that's it was a really good video too, because that's what's so
Thank
interesting
you.
about it. Yeah, it was good because I had the games on the original PlayStation. I had it in 64, but I didn't. That era, I was sort of phasing out of it and going to PlayStation because the game grown up, so I was going towards that. And I would think that the controller would make it very awkward to play that game.
Yes.
So that's why I watched in the first place. And now I found your channel. I think I watched almost most of your vids so far.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of stuff that the same sort of games that I played, you would talk about. So Need for Speed Most Wanted, Driver, a lot of that stuff. That's what got me to watch the channel. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you like the videos enough to keep watching. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I haven't seen the new one yet, No More Heroes, but I'm planning to. I do have that on Wii somewhere. I haven't played it yet. These days, like Wii games, PS2 games, Xbox games, they're cheap as chips now. You can just pick those up for a few dollars here and there. I just grab boxes or bags of them when I go shopping at pawn stores. I got crates of games laying around. So here's to check out on. Yeah, so that's your history with that.
Mm-hmm.
So so how'd you? So obviously the channel's doing really well. So the subscribers you hit 1,000 subscribers recently, and then you're almost at 2,000 now.
Yes,
Or 1.5.
Yeah, thanks to that Tony Hawk video around July, I think. July, August, something around there. That's when that video really took off. It was about a month after I uploaded it when the remake came out. That's when it really took off. I wasn't expecting people to go back to the N64 games at all. I was just having the itch to play, and I uploaded it, and that's really where a lot of my subscribers came from. At the current pace I was going to hit 1,000 just as the new year hit, because I was getting exactly 100 subscribers a month for a little while, and that's really where it took off.
Yeah, that's great. You also done some other videos about Tony Hawk's as well. The Xbox version of Tony Hawk's 2. I've got that somewhere, but I can't play it here because it's region locked. And it doesn't work here. Yeah, well, it's a bit crap anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, I could go on and on about why that game is like the graphics are the best, but it's the worst way to play Tony Hawk 1. But
did you ever play the Matt Hoffman games?
No, but I've had a few people request that I do. I always thought skateboarding when I was a kid. I always thought skateboarding was cooler than biking, so I was just like, no, get that out of here.
There's the second game's very bizarre. It's got a boss fight at the end. Have you heard about this? Yeah, so I don't want to spoil it for you, but check out that boss. It's a biking game, Tony Hawk style game with bikes, but there's a boss fight at the end. So check that out.
That reminds me of Evolution Skateboarding, which was a game. I think it was my 10th video special.
So was that Konami?
Yes, it was.
So that was game. The demo for that was in Metal Gear Solid 2. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think I didn't know this at the time, so I missed it in the video. But Mother Base is a skatable level.
Oh yeah, okay,
it's pretty cool.
So that game was a bit too. Wasn't that great?
It was very slow and difficult to play because it kind of draws you in as a Tony Hawk game, but the controls are super clunky. The movement is very slow. I don't know. It wasn't for me, but it also had boss fights every few levels, which is why I wanted it. Because it's very bizarre.
Yeah, so I saw your Wreckfest video recently too, and I actually picked that up on that video because of that video.
Oh wow.
and started playing it. Yeah, it was on. It had a massive discount. It was about a quarter of the price it normally is. So I picked up a PS4. So that was cool.
I had a blast with that game. I
Yeah, I
think
played a
I
little bit
think
of it.
you'll
It was
really
good.
love it. If you watch the video and you think you're gonna like it, you probably will because that game is very much just a demolition derby style kind of game.
That also reminded me of, yeah. So it's like the old Derby, Destruction Derby games on the PS1. That's what it reminded me of. Cool. So yeah, so your thumbnails, your metadata, like your titles, your everything,
Mhm.
pretty much it's all on point. So how did you learn about that? How did you figure all this out?
A lot of research. I would say that I probably should have done more research before launching the channel because there's a few things I'll get into, like tips and tricks and things like that, that I wish I would have done before launching my channel. But since I'd kind of had this idea for a YouTube channel for so long, I've kind of always considered, um, I'd always kind of like in the back of my mind been thinking about what I would do with it. And basically, before I launched the channel, a lot of it was Google searches. What do you need to know when starting a YouTube channel? Go into subreddits for small YouTubers. There was a really good subreddit, I think it's called Small Tubers or something like that, where there's a lot of big channels that give advice to smaller channels about what they've learned, what they can do better. A lot of what they point to is all of the same stuff. There's not one right way to do YouTube, but there are things that definitely you need to be doing if you want to start a channel. Like you said, the thumbnails. You got to put descriptive keywords and descriptive and accurate
Yeah,
words in
that's
the
right.
title and description. Because there's a lot of clickbait out there. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I know that.
But basically, you want to be as descriptive as possible while also using tags and things like that. YouTube itself, from what I've read, like obviously the algorithm is kind of locked behind things, and we have a little bit of an idea about how it works. But YouTube itself does a really good job of analyzing your videos and trying to figure out what it's about to begin with, and then kind of pushing it. So there would be times when people are like, this video I saw has 1 million views, but it doesn't use any tags at all, and it doesn't even have a description. It's because YouTube has, well, one, they got lucky, and B, it's because YouTube kind of analyzes your videos and tries to figure out what's in them beforehand. But just doing accurate titles and doing the tags and the thumbnails, especially the thumbnails, can really put you apart.
So if someone's doing a search for a game and they see your thumbnails, you want to make sure yours pops out
Yes. So for
and
this
yours
video
does.
that's on the yeah,
Yeah,
for this video that's on the screen in particular, the number one thing that was searched for was Tony Hawk N64, which I
yeah, I
think
see that.
is one of the tags that I have,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Nintendo 64. That's showing up number 3 for me. So
Mhm.
have you got TubeBuddy installed? You use that tool?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's
So it
helped a
tells
lot.
you. Yeah.
That's another pro tip. Use TubeBuddy because they have this awesome
Yeah.
checklist that will tell you when you're uploading what you can be doing. YouTube really likes it when you're using the things that they offer, like end cards in your videos. So if you use, there's an option when you upload you can add icons to either point to more videos of yours or press a button to subscribe or things like that. And YouTube really likes when you use their features, and
Yeah.
it'll oftentimes come back in a positive way if you start using these features because they wouldn't be there if they weren't useful.
That's right. They want you to use them. For my tech channel, I don't, so because I cover different subjects. I with my thumbnail with my end cards. I don't recommend new videos. I recommend similar subjects. So if
Exactly.
someone's watching a video about an iPhone, my end cards have videos about iPhones. Don't have my
Yes.
latest video about a Chromecast because they might not have that. So you got to make sure
Exactly.
you're pushing the traffic onto things I'd be interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that's really helpful because surprisingly, um, whatever video I link to the Thrillville one usually gets a little bit more traction.
All right.
So I guess if you watch the video and like it, after I've just torn that game apart, you'll like whatever. It'll turn out that people will click on whatever video I have linked at the time. It kind of changes depending on how accurate or relatable of a or relevant of a topic it is, but I'll change it every now and then just to see.
Yeah, it's I did like that video. I haven't played that game, so I don't have the nostalgia or the
Don't.
offense to it. So I don't play that game. I
Don't.
may even have it in the box somewhere. I don't know. I may. It looks familiar.
You
I like
probably
roller coaster.
do.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
It was so weirdly popular too. Like everyone I knew played this game. So when I said I was making a Thrillville video before I knew I was gonna like tear it apart, my friends were like, "Oh, I can't wait to hear what you think about Thrillville." Loved Thrillville. It's didn't
And then
go
they
well.
didn't.
Yeah.
I also like this thumbnail. Actually, I took it off the screen. I like this thumbnail. Hey, you got the verses. Hang on, I'll put it up. You can probably see it now. So you got the SSX video. Hey, you got the SS Tricky versus SS3. That thumbnail is good. Does that get a lot of views in searches?
So there will be kind of waves where different videos that are 6 months to a year old, and this is just my experience. What I've noticed from my channel is there will be times where like the ebb and flow of views on a video will come and go. Where for some reason something is trending or not trending, but there's more people searching for a very specific thing. Um, the SSX video you're referring to was very lowly viewed for a very long time. In relation to other videos, I think I uploaded it in February of last year, and it wasn't until probably 3 or 4 months later that I actually got up to 5.2 thousand views, if I'm reading that correctly. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, it's just interesting what works immediately and what works later down the road. Because honestly, the Jet Set Radio Future video was my first. Like I said, it was the first video I uploaded. I got like 40 views in the first day, and
Oh, well.
then it didn't hit 1,000 views until sometime in early 2020. So it just kind of weirdly got picked up by the algorithm or something and got pushed. Um, so it's that's why it's so hard to predict YouTube, because you never know when something you have
Yeah.
already out there is going to get picked up. And I think one of the important things about YouTube is it's you can do everything right with the titles and the thumbnails and the tags. You just never know when YouTube's going to push it. So the one thing you need to really work on more than anything, in my experience, is you got to make a video that, if it does get picked up, is good enough that people are going to watch it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
There was a so I don't know if I've messaged you about this yet, but there was a new pop culture YouTuber that popped up recently. She only started like 6 months ago, and one of her videos is on 50K views now.
Incredible.
And she's got 20, 30, I think 30K subscribers just on one video hitting the algorithm, and everyone's just floating to the other ones from that video. And her recent video, I think, got like 10K views in a day because of it. Yeah, it's like she talks about movies. She's talks about pop culture. Yeah, I'll link her. I'll link her in the description too, because everyone should check her out. I can't think of what her name is right now, but I'll link it later. She started off as doing a cosplay channel, but then like moved on to doing a movie channel, and she's popped off. Yeah, so that's interesting, because those videos are evergreen. That's the thing. Everyone's with like your videos. People are always going to search for Tony Hawk. People are always going to search for Grand Theft Auto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the video isn't going to age.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the games that I do cover, they're not trying to tap into a trend. I think the Tony Hawk video in particular did kind of tap into a trend because it didn't take off until the new game came out. But the other things that I cover are so old now that they're, like you said, they're evergreen. And I think you can kind of watch these videos. Like in 6 months, my thoughts on Revolt or Wreckfest aren't going to change. Because none of these games at the same time get software updates anymore. Like, I'm not covering Cyberpunk at the moment. I'm not covering Animal Crossing as much. I did one video on Animal Crossing because that was like peak quarantine of the pandemic, and that's all I was doing. But for the most part, I'm not covering anything that's going to change. So these videos are pretty evergreen.
Yeah, so 10 years down the track, someone searched for a video, yours comes up, the information's still good. Like it's no, like there's no patch to change something. It's like I bought the new the recent Mass Effect game recently, and the guy at the counter told me, oh, they had an update that changed everything. I was like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
So all the reviews for when it came out are now redundant. So it's these modern games are. I'm not that much of a fan of modern games. So that's why I watch retro channels.
Yeah, I appreciate them in a different way than I do the games that came out when you had one chance to make something good.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of making a game like there's a few PS3 games on here that kind of push that, but I think a game like Beetle Adventure Racing that came out, that game had no right to be very good, but they made it good.
Yeah.
Like that is such a strange game that exists, and what I kind of use this channel for is a lot of these games is revisiting my old favorites that I played as a kid, but other things are things that I'm visiting for the first time that I missed from when I was a kid that I always wanted to play or wanted to do that. So this has really been kind of a hobby for me to really expand what I'm playing, different things that I'm playing, and just trying to have some fun with some old stuff. The Jet Set Radio thing is Jet Set Radio is like my favorite game of all time, which is why I started on that video, because I was like, I'm gonna be able to like talk about this game for 12 minutes and then I'll figure out the videos later. But just a game like Street 3, which I never played, which is a sequel to NFL Street 2, which is one of my favorite arcade sports games. That was one of those games I kind of played for the first time that I didn't really know anything about, other than it doesn't have a very good reputation, and I was surprised by it. So this has been a really fun way to kind of diversify what I'm playing and just revisit some old favorites and some new stuff. Like SSX was another one that I had never played before, and I was super excited to play those.
That's why I think you also did that. That's why you made that title. So SS Tricky versus SS3, because when you Google it, that's what people are looking for. They're trying to figure out which one's the best between the two. So that's your title, in your thumbnail really hit that. Yeah.
And what's funny is,
I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's funny is in the video, since I'd never played either of them, I ended up playing them both back to back in the same day. And I think the thing I ended up on was these games were good enough to play back to back, and they were still both incredibly fun. So you can't go wrong with either of them.
Yeah. Okay. Did you play the wasn't there a recent version that came out? The recent one?
There was one, I think in 2012, SSX on PS3. I've played that one a little bit.
It's not great.
It's for some reason it didn't grab me. Maybe it wasn't. From what I hear, like fans of the series thought it was all right. It wasn't anything terrible. I think it wasn't the game I wanted at the time.
Yeah, a lot of those. So you got the 6th gen consoles. A lot of those games, when they moved over to the 7th gen, they were a bit They weren't that crash hot.
Yeah, exactly.
So this video here is interesting. You're reviewing the was it a Retroid, the handheld Android device?
Yes.
You're an Apple user, but that's an Android device. Was that much of a issue running Android?
So surprisingly, I do use a Mac in my like daily life to edit videos and things like that, because that's just the ecosystem I was used to, and it's what my my university was using. And so I kind of bought a computer for video editing because of the curriculum that I was in. My final semester was very video heavy. But the thing is, I switched to an Android phone in 2014. So I had a lot of experience with Android and tweaking it and having fun with it. And the one thing that always came back to it was, I love that there are emulators for Android, but I hate that I don't have buttons.
Okay. Yeah,
so
well, that device
the Retroid Pocket, the Retroid Pocket was that. And the one thing that I wasn't going to buy an emulator device until it could run N64. And the Retroid Pocket 2 is one of those things that runs N64 just well enough that I can play most of what I want to play without any issues at all. So that's amazing.
perfect N64 emulation is actually really difficult. It's
Yeah.
something to do with the way the RAM and the CPU talk to each other. And you need a very good PC to get that to run perfectly. That's like in Mario Kart 64. Here you got this one of the levels. You got the screen. It always glitches out because the emulator can't handle it correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've never been able to find a very good N64 emulator for the Mac.
Yeah, I got a Mac as well. I also use Windows 10. But yeah, emulation on the Mac, especially because mine's an older one. There's a new emulator. I think it's based on RetroArch. It's got like a nice front end. But my Mac OS version isn't compatible with the latest release, so it's a bit of an annoying thing. Yeah,
Lovely.
yeah, compatibility
the trials
on
and tribulations.
yeah. So I do IT for work, and compatibility right now is a pain, especially because things are switching over to ARM now. You got ARM devices showing up with desktop OSs on them, and people getting confused. It's painful, but that's
yeah. I think with the newest Mac update too, they killed all 32-bit application support as well.
that was actually a while ago. Yeah, that was annoying.
It took Adobe forever to iron out the bugs, so that's always frustrating.
I had a client who I had to wipe their Mac. It was a 2011 model, so it wasn't. I mean, it is old, but for a Mac, it's not that old. I had to wipe it. I reinstalled Mac OS and everything onto it. I installed Catalina, took it back to their place, went to install their printer. Printer didn't work. The drivers wouldn't install because it's incompatible with Catalina. So I had to. I found some third-party drivers that worked fine. So I don't know why Canon can't sort that out, and some third-party guy on the internet can figure it out. Anyway, that's why compatibility is painful. Yeah,
it is. It is brutal.
That's why I like these old games. You put the cartridge in, you put the disc in, and most of the time it runs. If it hasn't got disc drive yet, but that's no story.
That's part of it too. Like just putting it in, it works. You don't have to wait for a patch. Patches are just like one of those, I guess, necessary evils of games today. But I feel like game development, it's very hard today, don't get me wrong. I don't know anything about making development other than that it is a miracle anything gets made. But I think there's like a different kind of respect you have for something where like it's right on day one or it's never right.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason I respect a lot of these games too.
Also, things are more complicated now. So we'll go back to Cyberpunk. The developers, well, in that case, there was 9 consoles they were aiming for. If you got a developer that does multi-platform, then you got 11 because you got the 2 Switch variants. So they make a game, they got to get it running on 11 platforms. It's a major task.
Yeah, there's so many different things to think about.
So you got the 4 PlayStations, you got the 5 Xboxes. Hang on, 4 Xboxes now. Anyway, there's so many different variations now. So a developer's got to get the game running on everything.
Yeah,
and that's why Cyberpunk was a disaster.
The 1S, the 1X, the Series S, the Series X.
The original one.
The original one.
The PS4, PS4 Slim, PS4 Pro, PS5. Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't want to be a developer. That's
yeah.
People tell me, "Oh, why don't you learn code and do development?" It's like, no, I got enough to do.
That's actually what I started in, not video game design itself, but I started in software engineering and software. I was like a computer science major, and it was a disaster. I did not get that at all.
I did programming in a course once, and I gave up like a couple of classes later. I was like, I'm not into this. let me fix networking. Let me set up a router and set up a switch. I can do that.
Exactly. I'm much more hardware focused, except for routers. Routers are my.
You don't understand it. Once you get it, you get it with the routers, because that's what I was doing today with a client, setting up their router, because they got a new ISP and the new ISP sent a new router, didn't put in their current Wi-Fi name and password. They went to use their TV. TV didn't work, so I had to go there, put in their Wi-Fi name and password. TV works, iPad works, everything works now. So that's they're 90 years old, so they're an older person.
Hey, good for them for using
Good for them.
iPads
Well,
and
that's right.
TVs,
Yeah,
you know?
but the ISPs sort of send things out and don't configure it beforehand. It really annoys me because they expect these people to do it themselves. It's like, no, they can't do it themselves. They get me to do it. Yeah. So we talked about a lot of your channel, but going back, I don't think we covered the actual video apps you use, like the video editing process
Yes.
or the scripting process. Like that's a big deal, isn't it? That's a big step.
Yeah, so one thing I actually made a tweet about this not too long ago about what my process of writing scripts is, especially when I'm having trouble writing a script. Um, and this is just the way I do it. This is what works for me. Everybody might have a different way to write their own scripts. Some people are better off the cuff. With me in particular, I feel like when I'm making these videos, I'm much better if everything is scripted out because I can ad lib in between things if I want to, but having a structure keeps me from rambling. Um, but what I do is when I sit down to make a video after I've played a game, of course, I will look at the notes that I've taken, maybe like bullet points, little things I think about the game, like the big things that stuck out to me, the little problems that maybe grinded my gears a little bit more, and basically I will take a few pages and sometimes it's all bullet points. Sometimes I have clearer thoughts about what I want to talk about, but I'll take those ideas and then break them down into different sections, whether it be gameplay, story, um, bugs and glitches if a game is particularly giving me problems with that. And then I will put those in a way that I think flows well. How one thing flows into another with gameplay. Um, Story usually comes first because I like to say what you're actually doing in the game, and then from story I usually get into the gameplay and how you interact with the story through the actual gameplay itself. So usually that's my structure. But what I'll notice is when I'm doing things, things will start to group themselves together in a more normal way that if I was just trying to type everything out at once, I would never be able to get it down into that format and structure by just sitting at my computer and typing everything out. I write a lot. Like for this podcast, I wrote pages of
Oh,
things to
really?
talk about just in case. But let me see if I can find my. We were just talking about No More Heroes. That was a game that I pretty much knew what I wanted to talk about before everything. Um, so in this case, as you can see, there's a lot of I hope you can see that. There's a lot of paragraphs that I've written out where it's much more like cohesive thoughts and things like that. But if I'm talking about a game like From Russia with Love that I had a very difficult time talking about, I hope that's in here. Yeah, it's in here. It was one of those things where I was just like, I don't even know where to begin with this. So I just started writing bullet points of.
Bumped in mic there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's right. No
It's
worries.
just bullet points of the different things that stuck out to me. And so from those bullet points, I just put them in like a Google Doc and tried to categorize them by things that made sense going together. And that's kind of what works really well for me. Like I said, it's not the only way to do things, but for me, I'm a writer oriented person because, like I said, I finished school with um, in journalism for written and print kind of things. So writing things out has always helped me. In terms of the video editing side of things, which you also asked me about, was the software I use, which is Adobe Premiere.
Oh yeah.
I'm
You don't like it?
always this close to dropping it.
I thought you would have been going with Final Cut.
I have literally I've had my finger over the buy button for a
Right.
long time because Adobe just I mean, I have a content creator friend named Casey who has so many
Yes.
issues with Adobe, and I don't have nearly as many issues as she does, but I have also had plenty of issues that are just bizarre, strange oddities that will like kill an hour. Like I couldn't get fonts to sync for like text one day. I couldn't I had video footage for the Warriors video. I had ripped the DVD to an MP4 file, and Adobe would put a green sheen over the image,
Okay. Oh
and
wow.
it was completely bizarre. So what I ended up doing after like 3 hours of just banging my head against a wall, I loaded the video file into iMovie and converted the MP4 to MP4.
And that
So
works.
essentially nothing changed and it worked. So
Bizarre.
so
Did
it's
you
just
use Handbrake to do that from the disc?
what did I use? I think I did use Handbrake.
Uh,
I
I'm
think I
liking making TV at the moment. That's what I like for that sort of thing.
think that's what it is. I think I've tried a few different things, and the one I used, Handbrake, I've had for a really long time. I got that when I was in high school to just rip movies to play on my PSP, and
Yeah, I used to do that as well. Back in the iPod Touch days, used to rip movies for the iPod.
yeah, and that's an amazing resource to have to just put all of your stuff that you own onto something like that. And
Yeah, I got boxes, I got crates of Blu-rays as well. I'm putting those on the hard drives. Yeah.
awesome,
I
that's awesome.
like collecting my stuff. Yeah, so that's the video. So Premiere, lots of problems with that.
Yeah, like I said, I'd probably switch to Final Cut if it didn't mean probably taking a ton of time to relearn everything I already have to learn, because it's not a one-to-one kind of thing. It's got a totally different kind of layout, which I don't think it would be too bad. But it's just the idea of starting over completely.
Yeah,
It's very daunting. In when I was at university, we used this editing software that a lot of news stations use called Avid, and
yes, I've heard of this. It's very professional, isn't it? That's like the top tier.
yeah, very
Yeah.
professional, very dense, very difficult to use for very basic things because it's built to do so many things that doing the simple things isn't totally easy. So right after I graduated, they switched to Premiere, but I found that it was a pretty easy transition from Avid to Premiere just because the editors look pretty similar, but Final Cut is a totally different beast these days.
Is it simplified? Because isn't doesn't Final Cut run on the iPad now? Isn't or is that iMovie?
Hmm. I know iMovie does have an iPad app. I don't have an iPad personally. It's been a while
Oh,
since I've had one. It does not get updated anymore.
yeah,
It is
same of mine. Mine's stuck on iOS 12. Like, come on up.
so I would not be surprised if there was some kind of iPad variant because they're trying to push that whole iPad is a computer thing.
Yeah, I've seen those ads and they annoy me, but that's okay
Yeah,
because they get it. It's like, oh,
sure.
why does this exe program open? It's like because it doesn't open on iPad.
Because it's
I
an
just,
exe file.
yeah, with Android, that was a big issue with when Android first came out. People assumed it was like Windows, even though it's like Linux. And they'll try to open exe files on it and stuff. It's like it doesn't. The download doesn't work. It's yes, use APKs, don't use exes. But, yeah, I work in IT, so I get these questions all the time.
Yeah. Um, I it's tough to recommend something if somebody was going to start today, what they should use, because I would say if you want to try to get into video editing to work at a different studio or something like that, where you're going to be working with a team of people, I'd probably go with the Creative Cloud, which is Adobe,
Yep.
because a lot of different places use that. Um, if you solely want to do this as a hobby and you don't mind learning something that's I'm not gonna say iMovie on steroids because I think that takes away, some credit from Final Cut, but if you want something that, like, is simple enough and you can just place things where you want them, um, Final Cut's probably the way to go, especially if you have a Mac. You're gonna have all of that amazing, compression not compression, encoding that, like, as soon as you're done, you just press save and the file's already made. You don't have to export for, like, 2 hours.
Yeah, that's that's the fun part.
That's the killer app of Final Cut. The only thing is you can't really work with teams in Final Cut, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Have you
Um,
seen much about the new Mac chipsets coming out, the Mac CPUs,
my
the Apple CPUs?
yeah, so my friend, who's like kind of on the bleeding edge of different things, he bought a Mac Mini with the ARM chip or the what is it? The A1, M1?
M1. I think the A series in the phones and tablets, but the M's in the Macs.
That's right. They're on the A14 chip in the phone. It's the M1 on the Mac. That makes sense. Mac, M, whatever. He had serious compatibility issues with things that he had. I'm trying to think what it was in particular, but basically I told him to proceed with caution because it just so happened that the day they announced those computers, his laptop that he's had for years crapped itself, like it died. It was just done. And so he was like, I'm just gonna get the M1 and I'm gonna be like on the bleeding edge. And I was just like, think about it.
Yeah, don't get beta. Don't be the beta tester.
Yeah. And he was just like, well, I'm just gonna do it. If I have any issues, I'll return it. And I was like, okay.
If they let you
sure enough, he had a bunch of issues, and I'm not really sure what the status of that is. I think so that's kind of my only experience with it, because I don't think I'm going to be upgrading my computer anytime soon. It's still running pretty well.
So apparently, if you're using Apple apps with it, it runs amazingly. It's insanely fast with video editing and video production. But if you're using Premiere, it probably has more bugs than usual. That's because it's going to run through emulation.
Yeah, like, I mean, even the Mac Pro wasn't really optimized, or Adobe wasn't optimized for the Mac Pro. So you're going to be getting kind of similar speeds on this $5,000 computer as you do like a $2,000 one, which is not what you want when you're dumping that much money in. So I guess the thing to take away from this is do your research, what you want to do, proceed with caution. The thing about Adobe is if you want to cancel, they tie you into a year. So if you want to cancel before your thing is up, they'll take the rest of your subscription at once. They'll be like, you're fine to leave. We'll just take a couple $100 from you now.
Yeah.
So, but Final Cut is like a one-time fee. It's more expensive, but it's yours forever. So
expensive.
Yeah. One thing though, I don't know if it's the same worldwide or internationally, but in America, there's this amazing program where if you have like a student ID, you can do the educator program and get the entire Apple suite for I think $200.
Oh wow! Okay, I haven't looked into it because I'm not a student anymore. So, but any students out there, that's something to look into. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes it really tempting because that's 2 years of Adobe, and then you have to continue paying it for the rest of your life. Whereas this is the only reason I haven't really bid on that yet is because there's no alternative for Photoshop. You'd have to go through some kind of either freeware or a different kind of either subscription or one-time fee. But it's very tempting, especially if you want to get into this kind of thing. Final Cut is a very respected program.
Even though they said Photoshop, that's pretty much a no-brainer most of the time.
Yeah.
For me, I don't use it. I use an app called Photopea, which you know about that one?
It sounds familiar.
It runs within Chrome, so it's Chrome-based and it's free.
Really?
Yeah. So my laptop. This laptop I'm running this stream off is 10 years old. It's running Windows 10. I've got a terabyte SSD in there. I've got 8 gigs of RAM. I pretty much treat it like a Chromebook. So all my apps are pretty much just Chrome apps. In my video editor, is called WeVideo, and it's meant for Chromebooks, and it runs in 4K.
Wow.
Yeah, so I edit myself in 4K on this old laptop, and it functions because it's all cloud-based. It functions. I mean, it's not perfect, but it functions. Photopea, same thing. That works as well. So my thumbnails I've done for my channel, that's all in Photopea. The overlay for the streams in Photopea. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So if people have an old machine and want free stuff, WeVideo isn't free, but is cheap. It's a monthly fee, but it's not much compared to what Adobe is.
Yeah,
it's not even close to what that is.
I recently just got kicked off the Adobe student plan, so that's another. That's $50 a month American. Hurts a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I originally, when I tried to do my YouTube channel, my tech channel originally 4 years ago, I try the Adobe stuff, did a trial, and it just didn't run on my devices. I got a 2009 iMac and a 2011 laptop. It didn't work for me, so I had to look at alternatives, and I found some that function, so that's good. I think I'm going to be getting a gaming PC soon for editing and for gaming. Awesome. That's the plan. And then I'm like, I got to learn Premiere then. That's what you were saying before, switching over to Final Cut. It's I got to learn things. I'm so used to my one, and I got to switch over.
Mm-hmm. It can be really hard. It can be really hard to do that switch, especially when like you're spending hours in these programs at a time and trying to get stuff done. That the idea of taking the speed and like efficiency you've already built, like knowing where everything is, and like throwing that out the window is terrible.
Yeah. It's it's a bit scary. Because then you got to it's with when people talk about Linux, they talk about it's free, but you got to use your time. You pay with your time. That's like switching over your process. It may be cheaper, maybe better, but then you got to use your time to get a benefit out of it.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think kind of like going back to what we were saying was about you using what you have, me using what I have. One of the things that I think a lot of people are really kind of hesitant about getting into YouTube is that they think they have to spend a lot of money on equipment and things like that. And my advice is to use what you have, because a lot of there you go.
Use your phone.
Use what you have. Use what you got. The cameras on phones these days, chances are if you're watching this, you have something totally capable of recording video, recording audio. And that's not the same thing as like just you should do some research on how to get the most out of the things you already have, because even if you have an iPhone that records in 4K, it's not going to make up for lighting. But if you record near a window that has natural lighting coming in, your video is going to look much better than it would if you were just recording at night in like a room with like an overhead ceiling. So I would definitely recommend using what you have. Don't be daunted by the idea of spending a ton of money. I didn't buy a green screen until October because I used what I had. Most of my videos are just me doing voiceovers because I didn't have a green screen. And a lot of the hesitancy comes in where like you look at huge channels like MKBHD with his like Red Dragon 8K cameras.
Yeah, Linus like upgraded to 12K recently.
Yeah, there you go. And it's super daunting, but like he started in his room with like, I'm pretty sure his early videos that for some reason keep getting circulated these days.
Yeah, I said that too. It keeps his first video keeps showing up my recommended because I got multiple accounts. I keep seeing it all the time. Here's a remote control from my computer. he's like 10.
Yeah, he's like 10 years old. He's in a basement. It looks like it's an overhead light with like it's probably it's probably a webcam, honestly, like a built-in webcam that it doesn't even record at 27.9 frames per second or whatever. It's super choppy, and it's like this guy built an empire, like a tech empire off of this tiny little video. So you just got to start somewhere. You got to use what you have. You got to start somewhere, and you just got to just get the first one out there. You can learn along the way, but looking for perfection in your first video is going to make it so you never actually post the first one.
Like my tech channel, the early videos were horrible because I did live streams off my phone. I was trying to demonstrate something. So this is because use what you had. My Mac wasn't working at that point in time, so I had an old machine from like 2006 running Linux on it because that's all you could run on a machine that old. Running Linux on it with TeamViewer on, and my phone was you used to be able to use YouTube Gaming and do a live stream, and then have the display up on the screen as well. So I had TeamViewer open on my phone using the camera to show me, and then did what I was doing on the computer. It's like demonstrating the computer, like doing something, and then that was being streamed to the phone. That was being streamed to YouTube off the phone. It was a mess, and it turned out horrible. But that's how I started. Then later on, I film videos in my car. I still do it. I have my phone sitting on top of my steering wheel, and I talk with my phone. And my channel, I don't know if you see my tech channel, but it's doing pretty well too. So it's booming at the moment, especially during when the pandemic started. It went ballistic. Like my channel grew like 3 times because people are searching, how do I use Zoom? How do I use FaceTime? How do I use this? That's what my videos were about. And then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah. And I think a lot of, obviously, like you said, you provided a video or like a video series that provided a lot of value for people when they really needed that tutorial that was in a really easily accessible way. Now that's like a totally different kind of thing that I'm doing, where like maybe you're looking for these games, but like you're more looking for it, and like maybe you've never heard of this before, maybe like things like that. But I think part of it, what it is too, is like you got to set reasonable expectations for yourself too. Like I I don't believe in subscriber goals. Like I'm not like I'm going to have by the end of 2021 10,000 subscribers, because I can't control that. I can only control the content I put out. And I think if you're going into YouTube, especially in 2021, with the idea that you're going to grow a gaming channel like Scott the Woz did in like 2 years, like
like that actually goes a bit deeper. He started 10 years ago, but the Scott the Woz channel, because he's like MKBSD. He started when he was a kid,
exactly,
and then eventually he's like, oh, I'm going to start this other channel, and then he just took off because he already had the experience, he already had the followers.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like he took this new channel, obviously. Like again, he started 10 years ago. He had all this experience. He learned all of his mistakes before and then launched a new channel. And it's obviously worked really well for him. But he still had to take that time to learn from those mistakes too. And so if you're just starting your channel, you're looking at 10 years of hard work for him. And hopefully you're not thinking like, I'm going to have 2 million subscribers in the next year. Because I've talked to other creators like Mini-Me, who is one of the another Australian, and he's one of the people I kind of like took a lot of inspiration from, and I've been really lucky to meet him and talk to him a lot about different things and pick his brain about YouTube and things like that. And I think when I found him originally, he was at 40,000 subscribers, and now he's like well past 300,000, probably 400,000 right now.
Yeah,
but
he's doing very well.
He didn't get, and he told me this. He said it took 4 calendar years to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I was just like, wow. Like, and at that point, I hadn't hit 1,000 yet, and I didn't think I was going to for a long time. And I mean, you won't see a penny from YouTube for a while. So I really love YouTube because it gives me like a creative outlet to do things, but I try not to set massive expectations for every single video I make, because if I did, I would burn out immediately. Because if you're only doing this to make money and you don't really love it, you can probably put your creative efforts somewhere else that will maybe get you there faster or something like that. But you really have to have like the passion and the excitement to do this kind of thing, because I know for a lot of people video editing is a nightmare, and like they hate doing it.
I talk to a lot of Twitch streamers. I tell those Twitch streamers, like, you need to get on YouTube and you need to like get into searches and talk about Twitch and I don't want to edit the video, or just put clips up. Oh, I don't want to put the clips together. It's like
right, exactly. And
because discoverability on Twitch isn't that crash hot. There's, like most Twitch streamers I watch, I found on YouTube and then found out, oh, they have Twitch channels. I go to Twitch, but that starts with me going to YouTube, so they need to get in there. But then that's the video editing. That's the painful part. Because when you're a Twitch streamer, you do everything live, and you're not used to video editing. You just say, oh, I'm going to do it live, and you don't worry about that stuff. So it's a bit different.
It's just kind of like go for it. Like if you don't want to edit videos, you should probably go to Twitch or something like that. But I mean, I've learned a lot in my time editing videos, and my No More Heroes video, which was I think 17-ish minutes, was still a 5-hour editing process.
Wow. Yeah.
When I sat down to do my first when I did the Jet Set Radio video, that was 12 straight hours of sitting in a coffee shop just editing, just editing.
Yeah, I usually say it takes for a minute of video, it takes about an hour of production time, if not more. That's
Yeah.
for my videos. My tutorial videos are like that.
Yeah, in that's kind of like the rule of thumb I was taught as well when I was in school. And it was funny because like we would be like given the task of making a video that was like a minute long, like a video package like you would see on the local news, which is a minute long with just voiceover, clip, 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 outro, done, whatever. And that would take like an hour. And when you sit down and you like have a 17-minute audio recording, you look at that and you're just like, what could that take? 2 hours?
Yeah.
I definitely never expected to be at a coffee shop from 9 a.m. to about 9 at night editing a video for the first time. But like out of that, when you're done, it's like the most for me, it's like the most amazing feeling because like you created this thing that did not exist before, and now you get to share it with all these people, and hopefully they like it. Hopefully, if they disagree with it, they're nice about it. um,
Except for the Thrillville video.
oh
That's
yeah.
pretty nasty comments to that one.
The funniest thing was the thing that cut me the deepest that someone said was like, "This guy's a real Debbie Downer," and I was like,
Okay.
I was like, why? I was like, dang, that really hurts. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why that one cut the deepest, but I was like, I thought about that for a long time. I was just like, I, because I still don't feel like I was too harsh on that game because that game was so overhyped and so popular that like going back is it's just so jarring how mediocre it is. But I don't know. Like I pretty much stopped reading comments on that video. I
Yeah.
I've kind of just
I've
learned
had that
from that
happen too.
video and
I
just
post
moved
things on
on.
Facebook, and Facebook comments are pretty bad.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah,
I turn them off, turn off the comments for that video.
I can't even imagine Facebook. That's a whole other.
Uh,
That's a whole
I've
other
seen
area.
Twitch streamers change from Twitch to Facebook gaming. I was like, "What are you doing? Don't do that." The Facebook audience they're not great people.
Yeah, Facebook is it's a scary place. I try not to go
Yeah.
there as much anymore. Um, yeah. So I guess we
So
talked
we
about that.
covered pretty much what the things in your notebook. We hit most of those things.
Um, just like I've got a couple of like audio tips.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I kind of obviously have a microphone set up, but that was actually I built this setup, which I can't show you right now because I would have to unplug my computer. But I basically built a 2 microphone setup for this podcast I was doing with my girlfriend a couple years ago, and when that all fell through, I was like, well, I still have all of this equipment that I can use and put to use. And so I kind of accidentally built an audio setup for YouTube. But if you don't want to buy a mixer, you don't want to buy microphones, I bought a like 3.5 millimeter lavalier mic that can just clip to your shirt for $15 on Amazon. And it sounds really good. So the barrier to entry isn't as high as it might seem initially. And if you go with like a microphone like this, that can genuinely just directly plug into your computer, use a pop filter. So
Yeah, I think about doing that. I'm doing tutorial voiceovers, and it's popping like crazy. I mean, I use Audacity to edit my stuff because I like free stuff, and I have to like de-amplify the pops to get the sound right.
yeah, those
Takes me
pops
ages.
are. And what popping is, it's like you're pushing air into the microphone, and this right here is called a pop filter, and it diffuses that air and doesn't. It's the popping peas. It hopefully doesn't peak the audio as much. But like that's kind of like going back to what I say about using what you have. You can get really creative with these DIY things that'll do pretty much the same job, where if you just use sunlight when you're recording to get natural lighting, or putting a pop filter that you made yourself for like a couple of bucks over your microphone, and just really checking those audio levels, that you're not hitting the red every time you're
Yeah.
recording, because
Some of
that
those
was
Minecraft videos out there are pretty bad.
yeah.
Like, hey guys, hey.
Exactly, and they're like just banging on the microphone with a hammer, it
Yeah.
sounds like. um and yeah, just try to record in a room that has some kind of like carpeting, or you can, if you want to like really invest in it, get some acoustic foam that will like diffuse the sound so it's not bouncing around the room. It doesn't sound as echoey. So, and I feel like a lot of the times, especially being like a retro gaming channel, people don't care as much about the video quality, because these things output at like 480p anyway.
Yeah, I was going
The
to talk about that too. But
audio
we'll get-
the audio is mostly what grabs them. So the best thing you can do is try to get your audio right as early as possible.
Yeah, so people usually say that. Do you watch Roberto Blake? Watch his stuff?
It sounds familiar, but I don't think so.
He's a big YouTube. Well, he's a business advice channel, but he does a lot of YouTube things. He's a creative. He's Photoshop expert, so he does a lot of creative things. Yeah, he says that a lot too. It's the audio first, then go with the video. Because I just like my tech videos, my question and answer videos. I sit in my car after work, my phone. The lighting's good. I got a lavalier mic, like you were saying. I got one of those. My phone. And it looks fine, sounds fine, good enough. That's right.
Yeah, and that's really all it takes. I mean, you can invest infinite amounts of money into this, but like it all comes back to these very basic, like staple things. It's the lighting, it's the audio quality, and making sure you're not popping and peaking the audio, and that's like the core of it.
So talking about retro gaming, I'm very particular about this. I do like good video quality because you can do it. It just takes a lot of equipment, a lot of expertise to do it. Do you watch the My Life in Gaming channel?
Yes,
Yeah, they went through like
through
a
them.
2-hour video on how to use a 4K TV.
Yes.
They're very particular about their video output, and I am too, because I set up TVs for a living as well. So for me, I noticed the the issues. Like, oh, you're using a video upscale, not a gaming upscale. I can tell the difference because it adds interlacing for some stupid reason. Like, it's like I can see that stuff. So what sort of equipment do you? Yeah, people. Okay, I go on Twitch channels, and for some reason when people use a camera and a capture card to do that as a webcam. So using a webcam because it looks better. But the video camera is set to 1080i, not 1080p, and the stream is like the capture software is de-interlacing it, and I can tell that. It's like, hey, change it to 1080p. Don't use 1080i. I just said the auto. Don't use auto.
Don't use auto.
I can see it.
Learn white balance. Learn what an iris is. Learn what exposure is. Learn what white balance is. It will all be worth it, I promise. Because you're gonna look better than anybody else starting out if you just take the camera off full auto.
This is a cheap webcam I bought, and it looks fine. I got a window. I got a light above me as well. But it looks nice and clear. It looks fine. I'm running it through OBS. I've zoomed in, so it only shows me. Yeah, it's looking great. Like yours looking good too. Yeah.
And this is just my webcam. I just have a lamp in front of me with a lamp cover over it. And that's pretty much all I'm using for this. I kind of threw this together because I wanted to use this to do it, but the battery in it died.
So what is that one? It's Sony?
This has been awesome. It's a Canon. Oh, it's just some ridiculous name. It's a Vixia HF-R800.
Cool. I used to sell cameras like 10 years ago, and they got some stupid model number names.
Yeah,
like, that made sense.
And this was like $120, which was like, I think it was a birthday present. That I was like, I want to get a little bit better, because being able to see yourself in your video and like what it's focusing on is huge. So another tip I have is if you just got the smartphone, literally record in front of a mirror so you can somehow
Okay.
see the camera
Oh,
or
I use
what it's looking at.
the front-facing camera. It looks
Mm,
worse, but it's still fine. My
yeah.
phone's a modern phone, so it still looks fine. Even though mine's a cheap, nasty thing, but it's still
Mhm.
it's good because I can't stand using the back camera because I can't see what I'm looking at. But
Yeah.
also too, with your eyes, don't look at yourself. Look at the lens. Try to look
Yes.
at the lens as much as you can. Yeah,
That is
I'm trying to do that now, but I'm
huge.
trying to look at you as well. So
Right. Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
I've got the window. I've got the window near the camera, so I'm sort of
Yeah.
not looking too far.
Yeah. Do as we say, not as we do in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't look at yourself. Um, Especially if you're trying to get close up things, I would highly recommend investing in a camera because zoom is terrible on smartphones. Um,
Yes, I have used it before. It's not great shot.
yeah, because it's digital, like it's not
Mm,
optical zoom. The lens doesn't actually zoom. It's like it takes the picture that's there and just
and
like
just
pinches to
zoom,
zoom,
just
which
compresses like
yeah, where
upscales again. That's good.
where this the you can see the lens moving in and out to zoom, so it makes a very big difference if you're doing stuff like that. Not every channel is going to need that, but if you're starting a particular channel where you're trying to get set up like that, you're going to need something that will zoom in enough to get the point across. But
Mm.
that's not something I use a ton. Usually I'll do it when I'm doing an unboxing of something, but
You done a couple of those, haven't you? You done
just a
the
few.
Animal Crossing Switch. I still haven't got
Yes.
a Switch yet. I got Switch games, but I haven't got a Switch yet.
I
I'll
love
grab
my
one on
Switch.
sale.
Um, I'm not the biggest graphics come second for me. I love
Yeah.
portable consoles because I can play them while I'm watching TV. It was amazing to be able to play console quality games in between classes when I had downtime, things like that. So the Switch has very quickly become one of my favorite consoles ever because it's for a lot of people who want like a 4K gaming experience, it's not going to fill that
Mm.
void. But being able to bring games like Doom 2016 to class is unmatched. Like I played when I took a trip to New York before the pandemic, my friend and I, we were on a train and we were just playing NBA 2K against each other, and like that was amazing. So
Yeah,
so
it's pretty
like
cool.
yeah, so I love my Switch. Yeah, that we kind of got off topic just so I could talk
Yeah,
about the Switch a little bit, but
that's right. We'll talk about PSP as well. So you're talking about in your videos that the same thing. Like PSP games are pretty much console quality at the time,
Mhm.
and you're also using those at class as well.
Yeah, I God, PSP is way up there for me.
Mm.
I adored that system. I think for a while I was buying more games for my PSP than I was games for my main console at the time. I want to say it was the PS3 or Xbox 360 because it was just amazing having games like Daxter, all of the
That was a good
WWE
game.
games, all the WWE games, especially on the go, because those were pretty close to console quality.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've got a PSP emulator on my phone. I crashed the Titans on there at the Crash game. I got the 360 version, and I'm playing the PSP version on my phone. It's like this is pretty similar to the 360 version.
yeah, it's
Like
amazing.
upscale it on the phone. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it was such an underrated console at the time, and even then, I think it was still pretty popular. It just got the DS for whatever reason did better, but I think those are pretty
Yeah,
different consoles for what they
it's
were.
different audiences.
Very different audiences. I
Yeah,
had
and
both at some point, but I
I
think
don't
in
think
retrospect, PSP
I
is where
don't
it's at.
think Nintendo would fit on a PSP, and I don't think God of War would fit on a DS. That's
I would agree with that. I would agree with
yeah,
that.
different audiences, different specs, different games. Yeah, so I think we're talking about capture cards, graphics. How you
Yes.
capture your things. Yeah.
So I bought an Elgato Game Capture HD in 2015. Unfortunately, it has gotten a lot harder to capture retro games these days
Mm.
because the official Elgato things that you can buy are either a used Game Capture HD or you have to buy HDMI converters or splitters to plug into and I have it written down so I don't butcher the name.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The HD60S is
Okay.
like
Yep.
the thing. It supports the video output, so like 480i for the Xbox, 240p. It supports it, but it doesn't have the inputs. It's only got HDMI input, so you have to convert
Okay.
your signal
That's good.
first to HDMI and then into it. So unfortunately, you're going to be looking at a lot. I don't know how much, but you're going to be looking at more of an investment than I had to when I got my Game Capture HD in
Yeah,
2015.
everything's all HDMI now. But there is
Yeah.
some like, so if you looked into like top of line game upscalers, how much they are.
Yeah.
So there's
They're
two
a
I can think
little
of on
bit
my head.
scary.
Yeah. So there's a new one that came out that's a lot cheaper, and I'll talk about that in a
Really?
second.
Okay.
So you know about the
What
Frame
was
Master,
one?
the
Yes,
top
I've heard of the
tier.
Frame Meister.
That thing in Australia, that thing's expensive.
Mhm.
I know Australian YouTubers that have them. I was like, that thing's expensive to import. You got to get it from Japan.
Yeah.
So there's that one. There's the open source scanline converter, which is cheaper again, but that's still pretty. It's one of the good ones. But then the cheaper one is called the Retro Tink. Have you seen that one?
I have heard of that one. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Casey bought one of those, and she's been fooling around with it and trying to get it up and going and tweak the videos. Her videos look great, so I would imagine she
Yeah.
got it pretty well. But
Yeah, I've been watching those videos too. They're good. I can't remember how I discovered that channel, but I know I watched the Matrix one that she did. That was a long one, but I like the Matrix.
I'm waiting to watch that video until I can really sit down and watch Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions again, and I've never been able to finish Revolutions. The
'Cause you get
Matrix
bored, or
itself is my favorite. Like the Matrix 1, the first one, is like one of my favorite movies ever.
it's a perfect movie.
I cannot finish the third one.
Yeah,
It's just like it's too dark and hard to see. And
oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't have that issue, but it's just the first one's perfect, and they try to add to it, and they just failed. And I wonder what the fourth one's going to be like.
I can't even
I'm
imagine.
excited.
I'm excited but terrified at the same
It's
time.
not coming out for another year.
That's good. Give it as much time as it needs.
Okay. So we don't know a Cyberpunk
Just in
situation on their
case.
hands.
I
So I watched those movies in the cinema recently because over here the pandemic's still going, but the cinemas are back open.
Mhm.
So about 6 months ago, the cinemas reopened again. They had no movies, so they're just re-showing old stuff. And I watched the Matrix trilogy in the cinema, so it was great.
That's awesome. That is so cool. I would love to see The Matrix in like a movie theater.
It was good because I was too young at the time to watch it when it first came out. I saw the third one in the cinema back in the day when it came out, but not the other two.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so
I actually saw the first one on UMD video on my friend's PSP. He got it for his birthday, and we huddled around his PSP and watched The Matrix. And I was just like, "This is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life."
Because that movie people say that movie was the reason why PS2s were sold, because people could watch Matrix on DVD like cheaply because DVD players were so expensive at the time. Yeah,
that's so true. That's so true. Oh man. The Matrix.
So so upscalers.
Upscalers, yes. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. I like Matrix too. It's great. Yeah, so the Retro Tink is one to look at if you want something cheap. I've got a cheap component to HDMI converter that I've got that functions. It's good. Depending on if your capture device supports its output, because there's an upscale, it just converts. So depending, because our stuff over here is PAL, so it's 576i for PS2 and Xbox, which is garbage. Trying to get something that's compatible with that without upscaling first is annoying. So for me, that's painful. But for you, for ADI, it's pretty common. So compatibility wise, you shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, it's just with the lack of input options with the new HD 60s, the 60s, it's gonna take a lot more elbow grease and tweaking and finding your setup than I had to deal with. And I think that might be a little bit prohibitive to some people because with me, it's just plug and play. For older systems, my TV that's mounted on this wall for some reason doesn't support, like, I can plug in my N64 to it, but if I plug in the N64 directly into the Elgato, it does not support that through HDMI. So I have to have a splitter with the red, white, yellow cables to.
There'll be a reason for that.
It's a nest.
So the reason is because the N64 is outputting 240p. and that TV through HDMI wouldn't be able to support that without an upscaler.
Right.
And that Elgato probably isn't upscaling, so that's probably why it can't do it. But through AV it can. AV it's not. It's so with modern TVs, they don't know what 240p is. They assume it's in your case 480i. So they misread it as 480i, deinterlace it, and then upscale it, even though it's already progressive in the first place. So it looks a little mushy on the screen. I hate AV cables. I think they should die. But that's they got replaced in the 70s with SCART, which you know what SCART is?
I've heard of it.
Wasn't really around.
I don't think we have that now.
Here in Australia, we're a mismatch of everything. So we got European stuff, we got American stuff. So we had S-Video, we had SCART, we had Component, we had everything back in the day. Yeah, so we had best of both worlds. We had all the connections of that stuff.
Yeah, lots of choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can try to like find these things, it's not that much different. It's just going to take a little bit more research. I did see something yesterday because I was trying to find like an alternative, and I found a video about one device in particular that I don't have any experience with it, but the review was pretty good, especially if you want to record older stuff. And this one's got a ridiculous name. It's called the StarTech USB 3 HD CAP.
Okay. To look that up.
It's like a very nice product. It's pretty expensive. Like I think it was a bit more expensive than my Elgato was when that came out, but it's quickly becoming one of the fewer ways that everything is baked in. It even has the same input that the Elgato Game Capture HD has for the component and composite cables. So
that's handy.
It's something to look into. I think it might only work with Windows. That's the tutorial.
Yeah, that's the issue I had when I had a Mac. I was going to do game captures, but I couldn't get anything to work with a Mac back 10 years ago.
But
these days, it's not really an issue.
Yeah. Elgato technically does still sell one product that does the red, white, yellow inputs, but you can't put component cables into it. So you're pretty limited on what you can do with that one.
Yeah, AV cables on their own don't look great.
No,
have to try to use component. Or being American, S-Video would be the next step. And if the console can do component, go component. But component was only really like 6th gen, PS2, Xbox, GameCube. Yeah.
It was very much like that weird middle area
between SD phasing out and HD coming in. Like your Xbox can do 1080i, 720p. Ours can't.
Games,
Ours is locked to 576i. You have to mod it to get to turn on the HD function.
Yeah.
Same with the PS2. The PS2 can't do it either because it had some 1080i games, and ours is locked as well. You have to mod it to turn on.
Yeah. This is the wild world of retro gaming.
There's so much to talk about.
Yes.
Because I said My Life in Gaming, they'd done like full-on documentaries on how to get one game console look good on a 4K TV.
Yes, and if anybody is out there trying to find the best way to just really get good video from all these old systems, My Life in Gaming is phenomenal. Like definitely I learned so much through just watching their videos that they are a priceless resource.
Their video about the 4K TV, like in general, it was just a general video, and it was like an hour long or something, or 2 hours long, something ridiculous. They should send that to TV stores and get their staff to watch it, because they go in the TV stores, they got no idea what we're talking about.
No,
like, what's the input latency? What's that?
Yeah. Oh no, input latency.
My TV is lucky. My TV does have input latency, but it has a game mode. You turn the game mode, it pretty much goes away. Like it's a massive difference.
Game mode is another priceless resource to have.
Yeah. Mine's an old 10-year-old LG TV, and it's 1080p, but using 4K downscaling, it still looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got the PS4 Pro, I got an NVIDIA Shield, which I watch my streaming stuff on. It does 4K Netflix, 4K YouTube, and it looks great still. Yeah. I don't see the need to buy TVs all the time. I think old TVs are still fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if it still works. Like,
yeah,
I mean, for the average person, I don't think the difference between 1080p and 4K at on like a 20-inch screen is going to be that drastic of a difference unless you're playing some like really highly intensive games and things like that. So I have a 4K TV, but I can't say it's changed my life.
Yeah.
But again,
Most people can't tell different.
I'm the guy who just said that graphics come second before games. So
Yeah.
what do I know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you're mainly playing. So another thing I noticed about your channel too is the stuff that you're playing and talking about are the stuff that people are nostalgic for now. The stuff is always evergreen, but with nostalgia, it seems to be like a 20, 30-year cycle. So things from 20, 30 years ago become popular again, and the stuff you're covering, Nintendo 64, PS2, Xbox, that's like that era.
Yeah.
And you'll start. I think, have you done a couple of PS3 videos and 360 videos so far? Because that'll be the next one.
Yeah. So I did Dead
Dead
Rising,
Rising,
which is one of my
I
favorite games ever. I really love that video. I had so much fun making that video.
I actually played the iPod version of that game.
I did too.
iPod Touch version. I thought it was fine at the time, but like,
I did too. It's
the PS4 version. It's like, oh, hang on, PS4 version's better. Because I had an iPod Touch. I couldn't afford an iPhone when that came out, so I got an iPod Touch instead. And I was playing all these console ports like Driver and Dead Rising and Resident Evil 4 on a little iPod.
Yeah, I really want to do a video on all those weird mobile ports of console
if you
games.
can get them to function still, because on the App Store you can't download them. I got Tony Hawk's 2 on iPod, and it doesn't run anything new now.
I know. I need to like probably just invest in like a second gen iPod Touch and see about hacking it or like jailbreaking it and just
and get the stuff
loading
running on
those things on it. That's going to be something I probably do later down the road because I would love to see what Resident Evil 4 mobile looks like.
The Android version is still floating around. You can get that going.
Really?
Yeah, it's online. You can download it somewhere. Not on the Play Store. You got to get it externally, but it is floating around somewhere.
I might have to look into that because I still got my broken screen Pixel 2 XL that can run that. Because I remember when those came out, I loved Resident Evil 4 at the time. I played the Wii 1 when we had evacuated for a hurricane. So most of that evacuation was just me sitting in a hotel room with my friend playing Resident Evil 4. So when that came to like the iPhone and the iPod Touch, that was life-changing. It's just like the real thing. It's not. It's not.
It's like a demake. I think you mentioned that when you said that demakes, because they were. Well, it's like the same with the Game Boy Advance, when the console ports of those. Most of the time, they were pretty much demakes. There was a couple of them that were still pretty similar. I think I can't say it right. Oblex. I think you know the one I'm talking about. The it's on Game Boy Advance. It looks like a PS1 game. That's how good it looks. It's a 3D platformer. It's all in 3D. And it looks like a PS1 game. They pushed that Game Boy Advance to its limit.
That is amazing.
Mini-Me talked about it.
Yes. That's why it sounds familiar.
Yeah, because Mini-Me talks about 3D, graphically impressive 3D games on the Game Boy Advance.
And all those Tony Hawk demakes too.
Yes, there's a guy called Square Jack who reviewed all of them. He reviewed every single Tony Hawk game. So yeah, every single one. Plus, now he's doing the spin-offs. He's doing like the snowboarding one, like the surfing one, and the BMX one, the Matt Hoffman. Awesome. That's how I learned about the boss fight at the end from his videos. Because I've got it, but I haven't played it yet.
I gotta play that Matt Hoffman game then, because like, oh my god, I really have to try that.
Yeah, so
a few people recommended those.
Yeah, so a few other weird iOS ports I thought of was the BioShock port. Do you remember that?
I didn't. For some reason, I didn't buy that one. I was like for a really long time.
It's been delisted now, but it's like, sure. Like, how'd you get that running on an iPhone back then? Because that was like a current gen game. Actually, there was not current. It was recent gen because it was 360 and it came out when I think Xbox One came out. But yeah, it's like it's crazy how they pushing this stuff, pushing these ports on game phones now. Because phones now, like 2020, the phones are insanely quick.
Oh yeah,
so they could push like. They can put PS4 games on that perfectly fine, in my opinion. Even though that probably won't.
So after my Pixel 2 screen shattered, I briefly bought a Pixel 4a, and I didn't buy it for like emulation purposes. I just wanted to have like a phone that wasn't cutting me every time I swiped something.
Fair enough.
And for some reason, I guess because you Google the Pixel 4a, YouTube picks that up and recommends you Pixel 4a videos. But there was like a emulation performance test, and I was like, "What? You know what? I'm just gonna watch this and see." And it's like runs GameCube at full speed, and I'm like, "Oh my god, how?" This phone was $350 US. Like
it's insane.
It's unbelievable.
Like stuff that's running GameCube stuff, like GameCube emulators, are very surprising to me because it's Power PC based, so it's what Macs used to use, and actually what the 360 used as well on the PS3. But the PS3 was a weird thing. Yeah. That architecture is very hard to emulate, and you're emulating on a phone.
Oh yeah,
I've got a Windows emulator on my phone. It's not very good, but it can run Roller Coaster Tycoon, like the PC version. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It runs that. Doesn't run much though. It runs original Fallout games. Yeah, so it's nuts. You can run that stuff on a phone.
Yeah,
and my phone's a cheap one. Like you're talking about the Pixel 4a being cheap. Mine's a Samsung Galaxy A11, the cheapest one you can get. Yeah, so it's the entry level Samsung phone, and it's still running emulators on it. It's crazy.
That's awesome. Like, yeah, you can emulate so much these days.
It's nuts.
It really is. Like, yeah, you can emulate a lot.
And for retro gaming channel, emulation could be a way to go if they're doing it all legally and.
Yeah, definitely legally. Be sure. Yes. We do not condone piracy. But,
I don't like piracy. I hate it.
I don't either. I
got clients who ask me to, I'll pay you to help me pirate movies. Like, no, watch Netflix, watch whatever. Why are you paying someone else to get you free movies? It makes no sense to me. I think piracy's stupid, but that's
yeah. If you have legally backed up like copies of the things you already own, then like the easiest thing you can do if you want to avoid all the wires and the rat's nest of cables and things like that.
What I was getting to, to make it easier.
Yeah, you can just
see a lot of
emulate.
You see a lot of Twitch streamers start off using emulation because it's quick and easy. You can get it going. It looks decent.
Yeah, use what you got. That's like
use what you got. There you go. Back to that.
That's the whole thing. Use what you got.
Have you seen the people getting emulators running on the Xbox Series X?
I have, yes.
GameCube emulations running on that. That's crazy.
It's pretty amazing. I guess when my phone can do it, I'd hope that the Series X could do it, but like the fact that it's so well already.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Microsoft allows you to do it. That's the surprising part. You don't have to hack it. Like they let you put in dev mode and let you install things to it. Yeah, you don't have to hack it.
I did not know that.
You know that? Oh, they actually let you do it. Yeah.
I've only seen like the performance tests. I'm just like, that's fascinating.
So you set up a developer account with Microsoft and let you like sideload apps to it. And one of the apps people make is emulators, so you can sideload emulators to it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think I've made a decision on which of the next gen consoles I'm going to get because I'm not exactly in a rush to buy them. But that is a very interesting thing to know.
You got to be aware that you have to switch between developer mode and retail mode to play retail games. You got to switch between the two modes, which I guess is fair enough. But yeah, it's cool. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised in the future someone gets a PS3 emulator running on it.
That would be incredible.
The emulators aren't actually Series X versions. They're still the Xbox One version is running.
Right.
To get Series X versions running a PS3 emulator, it's not out of the question.
Yeah, that would be really funny if the Xbox Series X had better backwards compatibility for the PlayStation 3 than the PS4 did.
It's crazy. Here's your list going. Is everything covered what you want to mention? Because we were
double check. I think we did a pretty good job.
Start to finish, YouTube channel for retro gaming. I think we've hit everything.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say is to like really before you launch your channel, really think about your branding and things like that, because you don't want people to start subscribing to you and then change your name and they have no idea who you are.
Yeah, I don't know if you were looking at the chat before, but we had that issue come up. Somebody didn't recognize the channel because I've renamed it. Because I had last episode done was 2 years ago, so I've renamed it a few times since then and redone the branding. So so I'm relaunching it now. So it's someone didn't recognize it, so they wondered who we were.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. So it took me a long time to settle on under 10 hours, but
yeah, Hedge came with that name too because that's a good name. That's a good, like, it's very unique.
So I wanted to bring this up earlier, but it kind of slipped my mind. But
Yeah, do it
have
now.
you ever heard of the channel Stop Skeletons from Fighting?
Yes, I did watch the
Yeah.
guy.
So I was watching one of his videos, and the thing that came up, I don't remember what video it was, but he brought up like the name of the channel came from this obscure cheat code that
Yes.
stopped
Was
skeletons
that
from fighting.
Castlevania?
So say again? Yeah,
Was it
I
Castlevania?
think it was Castlevania. I'm not positive. Um, but I was like, that's really cool. Something super obscure like that is it's like a very memorable name. It's a reference to something like that you're nostalgic for. I kind of want to do something like that. And basically, under 10 hours comes from the days of early cheat code forums and like pro tip forums and things like that. And there was this unlockable thing where, and I saw it on multiple forums. It was like Cheat Code Central, Game Winners, things like that. I don't know if any of these sites exist anymore, but where if you beat Jet Set Radio Future in under 10 hours, you would unlock every character in the game without having to do like the jet tests and the extra unlockable side mission stuff. Um, so when I was a kid, like I would play Jet Set Radio over and over and over until I finished Jet Set Radio Future in under 10 hours. And when I finally did it, it did not unlock all the characters.
Oops.
but but under 10 hours comes from that cheat code. Well, not cheat code, but like that pro tip that like it was from like the wild west of misinformation of
Yeah,
online,
I
where you
remember
could
that.
say anything about any of the games that you were talking about, whether it's true or not. And I've gotten to the point where I can beat that game in like 7 hours, so I'm well
Yeah.
underneath the 10-hour thing, and that's where the name comes from.
I was thinking there was something that people thought was fake for years that actually turned out to be true, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was the Nintendo PlayStation when someone found it. Remember that? That was
Yeah.
always rumored. Oh, it's a Nintendo PlayStation. Oh, and then someone actually found it in their attic one day. It's like, oh, here you go, here's a photo of it. Yeah, that's so funny.
Or what was it? The ET landfill was like an
Yes,
urban myth, but
that
it was
was
real.
real. Yeah. There's a documentary about it, and there's a parody. The Angry Video Game Nerd did a movie about it. I did a movie, but it was parodying that, and actually had the guy who made the game in the movie too, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that I
Yeah,
did see that a
yeah, that was
while
a
ago.
good
Really
movie.
cool.
Yeah, so there was actually on Netflix is an official documentary about it, and then you can watch Angry Video Games and a parody of that.
Right.
And then ET shows up and he's flying a jet, and then what is it, like Godzilla shows up or something?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
movie's nuts.
Exactly. I guess the last thing
Anything
I'll
else?
leave
Yep.
on is, besides thinking about your branding, is have fun with it.
Mm.
Try not to stress out over view counts and success and things like that. And like your first few videos are going to be imperfect. Just try to learn from everyone, and things will get better. Like only worry about what you can control, which I think I said earlier, but really what it takes is only focus on the things that you can change and get better with, which is like your video editing, trying not to leave too much dead air in between like sentences and recording, which I had a terrible problem
Yeah.
with. I watched those earlier videos on my channel and I'm just like, oh my god, I can like sip a beverage in the time that like I can in between
My
sentences.
my
So
live
just
streams like that too. Yeah.
yeah. So just worry about the things you can control. Try to improve on what you can in each video. Take notes, what you've learned, what you like in your videos. Try to bring them into next things. Like if you did something in one video and you were like, I think that worked really well. I really liked how it came out. Take it and keep using that in the next videos. And on the opposite side of that, if you rewatch a video that you uploaded and you're like, I didn't like the way I did that, learn from it. because you can only get better the more you upload, as long as you're putting in
That's
the
right.
time to try and get better. And I think if you just do those things and try to just learn as much as you can, you're gonna have some kind of success. Um, and just keep those expectations in check too. Just get better, keep expectations in check, and have fun. That's
Yeah. So with video production, it takes like 100 videos to get competent. it takes
yeah,
it takes a lot, and you don't want your audience to grow while you're still learning.
yes.
You want to get the learning over and done with, and then you can grow your audience.
Yeah, I actually saw somebody's end of the year wrap up. It was like one of those YouTube pro tip channels where it was just like, I challenge you to make 100 crappy videos.
That was Roberto Blake. Was it
Yes.
Roberto Blake?
Oh, right.
African
Okay.
American guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
That
I was gonna say
video
that's what he
was
says. Yeah.
amazing. I watched that and I've been thinking about that video since I watched it because it's such good advice. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about like perfection. Just learn and get better. And
That's what Shia LaBeouf says. Just do it.
just do it. Just do it. You really do. You gotta get the first video out there. Like once you got the first one down, you can really start going with it. But the longer you just the longer you spend time worrying and stressing about the first video being absolutely perfect, which is not going to be, there's no way, it's the longer it's going to take to get started. So just get started, get the video out there, and just keep going and have fun. And
Yeah,
if you,
people oh, you go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I was going to say, and if you end up just hating it, like hating the editing, hating things like that, don't force yourself to keep doing
Yeah.
it
Well,
because
that's the
your
problem people
time,
have.
yeah,
They spend all the money on the equipment and then they don't like it. Like they buy the. I watched a
yeah,
video on someone saying how to get good video quality during YouTube videos and live streams. Their advice was to buy a $3,000 camera. That's Australian currency, so for you, it's probably about 2,000. Yeah, so I was like,
still, that's
and the person bought two of them. I was like,
oh
yeah,
no. Oh
like
no.
that's probably not a starting point.
That's like giving me heart palpitations. Like I can't
Yeah.
even think about I
That
can't
video
even
looks
think about
great. Like, it
dropping
looks
that.
fantastic,
Oh
but
my
that took them
gosh.
like 5 years to get that point. Yeah. So it takes time to get that. But
Yeah.
even though I don't want to buy cameras, I'm happy with this webcam. Um, but it's hard to talk about currency because our currency is different. But it's the cheapest one I found, and it looks really good. Like that's
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and similar for this too. Like it gets the
yeah,
job done. It's a little bit better for like zoomed in effects and things like that. It's not going to set the world on fire with its video quality, but it gets the job done, and that's really where you need to start.
yeah. So we're pretty much done. I think we covered everything. So do you want to
I
talk
think so.
about some of the channels you recommend? Or we already talked about them during the thing, but anything that stands out? New
Yeah.
channels?
I just really love I've met some really great people through doing YouTube like Casey and Mini Me and things like that. Um it's hard to like recommend smaller gaming channels because I watch so many of them that I would hate to like
Mm.
leave people out. Um but I'm trying to think who I've been watching lately. Let me pull up YouTube really quick.
You can do a screen share if you want.
I don't know if that's gonna help me.
Okay. I'll bring it off
Another
mine.
person who put a lot of who inspired me to like start YouTube was Brutal Moose, who
Yes, he's in
love
Seattle, isn't
Brutal
he?
Moose. Um, he has moved a lot. I think he moved from Seattle to Texas and back to Seattle. I think that's where he is now. Um, but I've been watching his videos for years. Absolutely love his videos. Um, there were I found this new channel which is like it's not exactly retro gaming, but it's like pop culture and movies and stuff. This person called No Nerds Allowed. It's
Okay.
just these amazing little videos. They have under 1,000 subscribers, but they did this amazing video on like how Dark Side of the Moon syncs up to movies because of the way it's formatted, and it has little to do with like it's deliberately made to um it's not that Dark Side of the Moon deliberately went out of its way to sync up to um, The Wizard of Oz. That's the one. It's just the way
Yeah,
the
I've
album
heard
is
about that too.
structured, and it was this amazing 30-minute analysis. And what the guy did was he synced it up to a bunch of different movies to show that it works with a ton of movies, and I thought that was fantastic.
You can't think of what the
That's
name
actually
was?
how I spent New Year's.
Okay.
No nerds allowed.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, and there's that.
Yes.
So this is one's. Now that's the one I found. So this person did a video about the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope in movies. So think of 500 Days of Summer.
Okay.
Everyone thinks Summer's a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. You have heard that word before? Heard that saying?
It sounds familiar, but you might have to fill me in a little bit.
Yeah, I'll find the person. Because their channel's going crazy at the moment. Because that's what the video that hit the algorithm and just went nuts. It's a Dreaming Pixie. Hang on. Yeah, so it's. While I'm looking for that, I'll talk about this guy. So this guy, I can't pronounce his name because he's Japanese focused. That's a Japanese word. But this guy does a series called Retrosaurus where he reviews Dreamcast horror games and also retro games in general. But it's this he mainly focuses on the Dreamcast at the moment. So this guy just started. He's been doing it for a little while. He's a Twitch streamer that's switching over to YouTube, and he's got under 300 subscribers. So he talks about Resident Evil, some Clock Tower is in there. That's a horror game from that era.
Yeah, heard of Clock Tower.
So this guy definitely want to check out.
Definitely. I'm going to definitely make a note of this and watch.
Yeah, hang on. I'll take my screenshot while I'm looking for this channel. I don't want to show other vendors help.
What's also funny is a lot of channels that I find, they'll have like a few thousand subscribers, and then like by now they've all blown up a little bit. If you're interested in like the Retroid Pocket and the emulation systems, like the handheld systems, I found this really cool channel called Retro Game Core. They've got under 10,000 subscribers, but they do a ton of comparisons and deep dives on performance and things like that on those Pocket emulators. Which that's such a booming market right now. There are so many of those that it's hard to figure out what to actually buy if you're gonna actually spend your money on one of these. So they are very valuable. I watched one of their videos on the Retroid Pocket 2, which helped me figure out that I wanted to get it, and I have really loved that console. So highly recommend Retro Game Core.
I'll check those out. Yeah, definitely after this, send me a link so I can put them in the description.
Yeah, for sure.
This person here, so Anna, is it Anna? Anna Isabel? She's also an Australian as well. So Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope. That's got 600,000 views. Yeah, so that blew up. That's only 7 months old. She's talking about Rick and Morty. She's talking about Community. She hasn't done many videos. She's only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 videos.
That's the full extent of her videos?
No, there's
no
more
load
than that.
more button?
No, there
That's
is,
amazing.
but why isn't that loading? Hang on, there is more than that.
Okay.
Because she has some TV show reviews. Yeah, it's not loading. My laptop's old, but that's anyway. There's not many. Hang on, does it tell you how many videos somewhere? How many videos are uploaded somewhere? Anyway, she hasn't done that many. She's only got a few.
And she's already almost at 1 million views. That's amazing.
Yeah, like she blew up.
Wow.
Okay, so here, 17 videos. Tell me that in two, buddy. 17 videos.
17 videos.
And she's
that is
going
incredible.
Crazy. Yeah. She's getting help. So do you watch someone called Lindsay Ellis? She's a video essay movie reviewer.
I definitely think I've watched a few of her videos, yeah.
Did you ever watch Nostalgia Critic back like 10 years ago?
Not as much Nostalgia Critic. I probably watch more Angry Video Game Nerd and things like that.
So she was the nostalgia chick. She was the girl version.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how she got started.
Cool.
She's on 1 million subscribers now, and this girl is getting the same amount of views a day that she does.
Oh my God. That is
so she's going
incredible growth.
So they're my two ones I mentioned. You mentioned two there, well, a few there, but there was a few that we mentioned. Yeah, so everyone likes retro gaming. Check out those guys and check out the tips that we mentioned. I got to go through this thing and find time codes of where we mention certain things and make it like a database of what we mentioned. Because podcasts are hard because it's long form, and we just start talking, and it's just it happens.
Yeah, for sure. I think though, hopefully y'all were taking notes
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go
when you
through
were
and
watching.
make a
But
summary.
yeah, I mean, there's always more to learn about YouTube. So I think what we've done is create a pretty good basis for what you need to think about before you're getting started. But you can never learn too much about YouTube, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
And if anyone's got any questions, you can always comment on this video or tweet us.
or reach out to me.
Yeah.
I love interacting with people on Twitter, helping people out.
Under 10 hours is your tweet name. Mine, I'm still trying to figure mine out. Mine's BC, but you can't just have BC as a Twitter handle. So I usually have something at the end. So I'm trying to figure out what to have at the end. So that's, if you search, I will make a video content recorders podcast. What's my podcast name again? Video content recorders podcast. Twitter. I'll make one of those because I wanted the initials to be VCR.
Oh yeah.
That's the joke. It's a VCR podcast on Spotify.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, there's retro people out there. Remember VCRs, and did you see my tweet? I put a tweet up about VCRs that had HDMI output. That's a thing that did exist. I used to sell them at a TV store 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. They did exist. Sony, Panasonic, LG made them. Only for like a very short period of time, and then they killed them. Yeah,
that's God. I would love to have one of those just to future-proof my my VHS collection.
And people were telling me, check out the tweet, because people were commenting the model numbers to look for, the ones that actually have it.
That's amazing.
So they actually made a list. So that's So if you want a VCR with HDMI output, go have a look at that.
I'm gonna have to go look for that.
So thanks for joining me. It's almost been 2 hours now. We just get talking, and hope it's not too late for you. You're gonna go to bed in a minute.
No,
you're good.
It's the weekend. I got plenty of time, and I looked forward to doing this since we planned this a month ago. So I'm really excited. It actually worked out.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do this weekly. So if everyone's watching, come back in a week and I'll have someone else. Because there's so many people on YouTube and Twitch to talk to about content creation.
Oh, yeah.
So I can always find people to talk to.
Yeah,
that's not going to be difficult. Because I'm watching pop culture channels like this girl here. I'm watching like tech videos because I have a tech channel. We didn't talk about money because starting off, you won't see money for a long time.
No.
Like mine, I'm seeing money now, and the money's not bad, but it took me like 3 years to get that point. Mm-hmm. And also, what helped me was the pandemic, because my videos took off, which also helped me get over the monetization goals. Mm-hmm. Actually, I got over the goal pretty quickly when the pandemic started. Yeah. And my first payment was like the month after it started.
Wow.
It took off. Yeah, it took off really quick right after that. It's like, oh, cool. The pandemic is a horrible thing, but for me, my business took off too, because doing IT, setting up Zoom, setting up Netflix and stuff, it went, I was flat out. Now it's starting to cool down, which I'm very happy about, because I was working some crazy days.
I can imagine, especially in the middle of a pandemic.
I had gloves and masks. Around here, it's not it's a big deal, but around here, it's not a big deal. People aren't wearing masks in the shopping centers, and I am, because I work with older people. Because I don't want to give them anything. The person today I was working with was 90 years old, so I don't want to give them anything. So people think I'm weird because I'm the one in the middle of a retail computer store with a mask on. No one else cares.
Yeah.
That's where I get my stock from, computer stores and stuff. I'm in there all the time. Yeah. So there's one thing I want to cover. So spending all that time editing the videos, does that interfere with your work and your sleep?
So with the pandemic, I got laid off, which gave me a lot of time to really focus on YouTube. So after spending a month off of things and just trying to unwind and come to terms with the new reality that I was dealing with, it was a lot easier because I could really devote a lot of time to YouTube. Now I am kind of working two jobs. I got a freelance thing going and a marketing thing going right now. So my video production has not halted, but it's definitely gone down a little bit. I'm trying to make sure that I'm still keeping up with it in some way, and trying to make sure that I'm not like going too long without posting anything.
Mm.
I'm trying to go for every other week.
Because
It's
so far you're doing like a few a month.
Yeah, so for the longest time when I first started in 2019, I was doing at least one a week. Which is a lot of people say you have to publish once a week. Um then there's the other, and like that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to publish once a week. But then there's another party of people that are like, you should really try to focus on getting the video right.
Yes.
And I try to walk the line in between those. I won't publish a video that I think is bad, and I won't try to publish a video that I think could have used more time. A lot of the times, I'll say a video is going to come out, and then because of some setbacks or premiere issues, like we went into for a while, it needs more time.
Yeah.
And the No More Heroes video was one of those videos that needed more time because some things I wanted to do for it ended up not working out, and something it just needed more time. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And if I would have rushed it out, I would have probably ended up hating it because I felt like it needed that more time, you know.
So Roberto Blake talks about in that video you mentioned before that there's a balance. There's like, what do you say? It was people say quality over quantity, but he was saying quantity first, then you get the quality, and then it balances out after time. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, my videos I do daily, but
Yeah.
But mine are like 2-minute tech videos, so not a 20-minute game review.
Yeah, there's so many different facets of YouTube, and
Yeah.
I think like with a guy like Roberto Blake and like having that quantity over quantity thing, I think for a lot of people that will work because that quantity brings out the quality. But
That's what I mean. Yeah.
if you want to spend more time on something and you feel like in like in your gut that something needs a little bit more work, not like chasing perfection, because again, that's never going to be something you hit immediately. But you'd like to spend a little bit more time on X, Y, or Z, you should probably do it because your gut's telling you that for a reason. So definitely find that balance of spending time on YouTube and getting content out there, but doing it in a way that you don't hate the product that you're producing.
Yeah, it's because my live streams, because being an IT person, social things aren't that easy to do. So starting off doing live streams was a bad idea.
Yeah.
There was a lot of ums and buts because I didn't script it. I was like, I'm just going to talk about this for 10 minutes, and I was like, that's a horrible video.
Yeah, it happens though, and you just gotta get over that, and you have to
push
hear
through.
and you gotta hear yourself say and but 1,000 times for you to like get it to click in your head. I gotta make a conscious effort not to say that anymore, and hopefully after some time you'll get better. And I think the more you do something and the more you try to learn from your mistakes, the better you will get. um Definitely don't try to keep making the same mistakes over and over, but
You gotta learn
sometimes
from it.
that happens. Yeah, learn.
Gonna learn. Like there's this guy called Viper who does Viper Live, a podcast. Have you heard about this guy? One of Roberto Blake's friends.
Mm-mm.
He just put a tweet up recently, and he said, "Oh, what do you say?" Or something that you just mentioned. Hang on, I'll get to it in a second. Okay, I don't remember, but it was something what you were talking about. No, I didn't remember now. So being a YouTube, because people hear the word YouTuber, they pretty condescending to it. He was saying, well, YouTubers, they do this. They do video editing, they do marketing, they do graphics design, they do scripting, they do writing. There's like a whole list of stuff that you learn during YouTube, that if the YouTube channel fails, then you can go get a job doing something else. Like I was doing social media marketing for a little bit there before my tech business took off. So there's stuff you can do. There's always work.
And one thing I totally forgot to mention when I was giving you my background was because of the videos I made in 2019, I ended up getting a job and working for a company running their YouTube channel.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and the skills you can teach yourself with YouTube really can be applied to a variety of things. And one thing that when I would talk to professionals about during we had like portfolio reviews at Loyola where I went to school, and basically professionals would come in, look at your resume, your portfolio, your body of work, and things like that, and just the initiative to do something that you're not forced to do is impressive to so many people. Like I had 25 episodes of that podcast that I was talking about that I started with my girlfriend, and the fact that it was there and the fact that we did 25 of them made my like I got so many compliments being like, you didn't have to do that, but you took the initiative and you had the work ethic to actually do it and follow it through until like it had to end because of some outside life circumstance, but you did it, and like the fact that you did it at all was massively impressive. So don't think that doing YouTube and getting like 20 subscribers is nothing, because you could have just not done it at all. You
yeah,
could have never learned any of this. But the fact that you did makes it that you taught yourself skills that can be applied to a variety of other things. And I think that is something that YouTube and doing this kind of work, it's really kind of pushed under the rug and forgotten about. So never forget that doing any of this is impressive.
yeah. Like it's so much of a learning curve. Like when I started, because I was doing weird things like using screen sharing from my computer to my phone to do a demo or something.
Mhm.
Because the PC I was using, it was like something from 2006 running Linux, so I couldn't do anything on it itself. I had to somehow get that to my phone, and then the phone could do it. Yeah, yeah. So I think we pretty much covered everything.
I
We
think
could talk
so.
for like hours on end
Yeah.
about this stuff. Yeah, so I think 2 hours is pretty much a good point to end it off. So I think we already mentioned where you can find your Twitter, but what about YouTube channel? Where can we find that?
It is youtube.com/ under 10 hours gaming, if I am not mistaken. Let me
Yeah,
double check that.
yeah, I'm looking at it now, and that's what it is. Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
and your channel name is under 10 hours. Yeah,
Yes.
so that's and you got a big tweet me profile
Yes.
picture there, so tweet me there, so people
Yes.
can find you and ask you questions about this stuff because like you're like newish, like you've been doing this for like a year and a half now.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah, like
definitely less than 2 years.
your thumbnails and video editing skills and everything are pretty top notch.
Well, thank
I
you.
wouldn't be surprised if
I
you get
was
100,000 by next year subscribers.
oh, that would be amazing. But I'm just gonna take it as it comes and not I'm not gonna it would be amazing if I could do this as my full-time job, but I am not going to pin all of my hopes on that just in case.
Yeah, fair enough. You don't get what's the word again? Um, for me, it's afternoon. I had lunch, but you're probably more tired and you're able to get the words out. Um, you don't want to get dissatisfied. Is the word? No, it's you. No, anyway, you don't want to get too downtrodden that this stuff isn't growing quick enough.
Yeah, I don't wanna lose the passion that I have for
Yeah,
YouTube and,
that's what I was
like,
going for.
the
Yeah,
love like, I genuinely love video editing. I think it's therapeutic, but I think I'm kind of in the minority of people who think that way because it's a lot of work. But
so
this is
it's
just
like
something I love to do, and if something comes of it, amazing. If not, I can say that I built this body of work that maybe will it got me my first job, and that's not nothing.
yeah, that's because you finished university recently, wasn't it? A couple of years ago, a few years ago.
Yes, so May of 2019 is when I graduated.
Oh well,
So
it was. Oh, then I thought. Like, I was thinking, like, oh yeah, 4 years ago. It's like, oh no, it's like last year.
yeah, it was very recent, very
Because
recent.
here in university, here in Australia, we don't really have university. We have college, and I
Okay,
did something called TAFE, which is what you would call community college.
okay,
Maybe that show community. It was similar to that.
okay.
Yeah, so we got that. That's why I did my IT courses through, and I did those probably 4 years. But I left school before you were supposed to leave school, so I left school before I was supposed to finish, and then went straight into that. So I started working pretty early, I guess, for
Mhm.
my age. Yeah. So yeah, American and Australian culture is slightly different in that sense because our education systems work completely differently. Because over there, like college is pretty much mandatory, isn't it?
It's very recommended.
Mm. So here, if you don't get a job after you leave school, you go on benefits with the government, and after a while, they either make you work or they make you do courses, and then
Okay.
put you through the community college. Yeah, so that's helpful.
Yeah. It's kind of sink or swim here.
Mm.
Especially with everything that's happened in the last year, it's been pretty tough finding uh, my job description is a lot harder to find a job in with like journalism and things like that because of everybody moving to work from home.
Mm.
All of these big publications shrunk in size, so it's been a
Yeah.
very weird year. um, and YouTube has definitely given me a way to like stay optimistic and kind of make a schedule. And now that I've got these two jobs, I'm like doing a lot better. But like YouTube was a very big part of like keeping me going and forcing me to learn and get better and things like that. So I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, it's lots of opportunities in YouTube. Once you start learning and start getting skills, you can go anywhere pretty much.
Genuinely, and never stop learning.
There was a learning. I saw a Twitch streamer who is a video editor professionally, but then they do Twitch for fun. I was like, usually it's the other way around. Like you do Twitch, YouTube and then become a professional video editor, but they're doing it the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so funny how that worked out for them.
Yeah, for sure.
But they edit trailers like for Transformers and stuff. Like they're up there.
Oh, those are the best trailers too.
Oh, really? Like to give the aspect ratio that keeps flickering, changing.
Oh yeah, lens flare. Lots of lens flare.
Oh yeah. The last last Transformers movie, not the spin-off Bumblebee, but the last number 5, whatever it was, that aspect ratio was disgusting. You see this one? It keeps changing.
I
They
don't.
keep using different cameras and different lenses, and the aspect ratio keeps changing every 5 seconds. Like I'm not joking.
Oh, that's
Someone's
amazing.
talking, change the next person. The aspect ratio instead of being 16:9, it's now 21:9, and it's back to 16:9 when the next person's talking. It's disgusting.
Well, I'm not a professional, but I think I would know not to do that.
Right. Yeah, so I think we're going to finish up now because we're already 2 hours, and this
Yes.
is great. But we'll do some other collabs or something else. If there's anything you want me to do from your channel, let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
If I can do something for you. Yeah. So thanks everyone for watching. Go find Untitled Hours on Twitter and YouTube. Go find me, Video Content Recorders Podcast on YouTube, Twitch at the moment. Spotify, iTunes is coming soon. That's getting set up. Twitter, I'm still figuring that out, but links are in the description for us. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and we're going to end it now. I'm going to hit the end button. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.